Let's take a look at section 5.1b, lines. This time we're going to be finding the missing angle measures. In 5.1a, we discussed the different types of angles that were formed when you had a transversal which cut through a set of parallel lines. And so today then we're going to discuss how we find missing angle measures when we have a transversal and parallel lines. So let's take a look at the key concept. Finding missing angle measures. When two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, special angle relationships exist. We've already discussed all of those relationships. You might want to look back at your section 5.1a notes. Have those out with you to help you in figuring out how to find missing angle measures. If you know the measure of one of the angles, you can find the measures of all of the angles. Now, there's a lot of work to be done with these, and you have to know those special angle relationships in order to be able to do this. So if you don't have your 5.1a notes, go ahead and get those out now, have those in front of you, or the resource sheet that I handed out could also be helpful to you if you don't have your notes handy. So let's take a look at the example. It says if the measure of angle or line M, if line M is parallel to line N and the measure of angle 7 equals 35 degrees, find the measure of angle 1, justify your answer. Now, if we look at angle 7 and angle 1 and you take a look at your notes, you'll notice out. One thing we can do, and there are several ways you can do this, more than one, and you might be able to come up with different ones than I can, but let's just take a look at one of these ways to figure out the measurement of angle 1. We have angle 7 and angle 5, and if you look at your notes, you will remember that angle 7 and angle 5 are supplementary angles. And supplementary angles are angles that lie on a straight line, and their measures equal 180 degrees. So let's just write the measure of angle 7 plus the measure of angle 5 equal 180 degrees. That's something that we know. Now, we know that the measure of angle 7 is 35 degrees because it tells us that. So we're going to write 35 plus, let's call the measure of angle 5, that's one that we don't know. Let's just call that x, just to make it an easier equation. And so now we know that the measure of angle 7 is 35 plus x equals 180. So we're going to subtract 35 from both sides. And we get x equals 145 degrees. All right, so now we know that the measure of angle 5 equals 145 degrees. So let's take a look at angle 1 and angle 5. If you look at your relationships in your notes for 5.1a, you'll see that angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. So let's just write angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. Angles, and that means that they are congruent. And we learned that congruent means equal. So if we know that angle 1 and angle 5 are equal, then angle 1 is also 145 degrees. So yes, I understand, and some of you are probably thinking, this is really difficult. I don't know how to do this. The only way you can do this is to learn those special relationships and what they mean. So you do have a little work to do. What I want you to do is to pause your video, take a few minutes, and I want you to look down at the bottom. It says refer to the figure above. If the measure of angle 1 equals 145 degrees, then find the measure of angle 6. Explain your answer. Take a few minutes, pause the video, try to work this out. Now there are several different ways again. You may all come up with different ways of doing this, and that's fine. And then come back so we can discuss it. Okay, did you come up with an answer for the measure of angle 6? Let's see what with that answer, and let's see if you did it the same way as I'm going to. If not, we'll discuss it in class tomorrow and see if the way that you did it is also correct. So let's take a look at angle 1. Angle 1 we know is 145 degrees, and we want to know what angle 6 is. Now, if I look at the two, first of all, I know that they don't have a special relationship, at least not one that we've discussed. So let's take a look at one way we can figure it out to see what angle 6 is going to be. Now, I think that I would probably do angle 1 and angle 3. So I know that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 because they are supplementary angles. We know that the measure of angle 1 is 145. We don't know the measure of angle 3. So let's call that one x. And then let's solve for x. So we're going to subtract 145 from both sides. And we get x equals 35 degrees. So now we know that the measure of angle 3 equals 35 degrees. Just by looking at angle 1 and angle 6, we know that they are not the same. So we know that angle 6 is not 145 degrees. We know that it could be 35 degrees because it looks similar to that of angle 3, but we have to figure out why angle 6 is 35 degrees. If you look at your special relationships in your notes, you'll notice that angle 3 and angle 6 are alternate interior angles. So let's just write angle 3 and angle 6 are alternate interior angles. So we know from our notes that they are congruent. And we know that congruent means equal. If we know that angle 3 and angle 6 are equal, then we know that the measure of angle 6 is also 35 degrees. If you didn't do yours that way, we'll discuss the different ways that we could have come to that same conclusion tomorrow in class. So bring your notes with you and we'll take a look at them.